Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we have a extreme mess in the shop for What's Jake Doing, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back. As I said, my name is Jake, and today we have a giant mess here in the shop. We have so much stuff going on, not only in the shop, but also at work and personal life and all the other stuff. So I'm going to go through a couple of things. I have a lot more to go through in the future, but we'll save that for then. The first thing on What's Jake Doing is we got a RC four-wheel drive Toyota body. It is the 4Runner. It was the complete body kit, so it was already put together and painted. So like I was saying, this was the complete body. It comes in a box already thrown together, painted, assembled, etc., etc. And I wanted to put it on this version 1 Vanquish VRD stance. So I have another Toyota on a VS410 chassis, and I have a brand new version 3 or Gen 3 Vanquish stance that I'm keeping stock. So I figured I would throw a hard body on the Gen 1. Now, the only thing that we've done to this stance out of the box is we fixed the lower links. So we made them thicker because from the factory they're really thin and they bend pretty easy. And then the only other thing I think we've done is we might have changed the rear diff. I don't know that we've changed both of them, but the stock diff in the Gen 1 and Gen 2 stance, basically gears that look like this. They're all one piece and they're not machined like the pinion. So the Gen 1 and 2 stance came with the powdered gears throughout. The Gen 3 stance comes with machined gears in the diffs, which is really where you have the most problems. You still have powdered gears in the transfer case and transmission, but in my experience, you will have a hard time stripping those out. I haven't done it yet, and I have probably 5 or 6 trucks with them in it, and I haven't had any issues. The Gen 2 stance came with the better lower links, so if you got the Gen 2, you have the thicker links, and then the Gen 3 came with the better diff gears. So, with that being said, what did I have to do to this VRD stance to get it to accept this body? Well, there's a couple of different routes you can take. I know that Shrink RC makes mounts for these. You could probably find some mounts on Cuts 3D or Thingiverse or whatever the case is to mount the body to the VRD chassis. You know, that's one of the things that you need to do is get mounts for the body. And then the second thing that you need to do is get links for the rear. So when you put this body on the truck, the wheelbase from the factory on a VRD stance or carbon, and I think the VS410 is about 12.3 inches. And the body wheelbase is 11.8. So the front part of the wheelbase is fine, but you have to suck the back axle in. And so that's what we did. We put new upper and lower links on here. I believe they're 92 millimeter upper and 104 millimeter lower. I don't know for sure. I will leave the links required in the description below. The first thing we did was we made sliders. As I stated, we made sliders to hold the body. I will put those on Cuts 3D. And again, they're not just mine. You can download them or buy them from many different sources and put the body on there. The second thing you need to do is buy links for the rear, upper and lower. I'll leave the links for those in the description below. And then really the only other thing that I had to do was take the bumpers off. So you can see we no longer have the bumper in the rear and the bumper in the front. Now I will make or buy something to put there, but for right now it's just not really needed. One of the benefits to mounting the truck with these sliders is you don't have to hack up the body. So I didn't do any trimming on any part of the body. Now, the rear bumper did end up coming off because it got into the 475. And then the front bumper, you can see here, I had to trim it at an angle. I didn't have to hack the body up to get it on there. I didn't have to cut inside of the body to get the shock towers to fit. It all just worked. So I'm very happy with how it turned out. These are some knockoff wheels that I've had for a very long time. I have always had these Toyo Open Country tires on these wheels, and so I figured I'd throw them on there for the scale look. The inserts are a little soft, but it's okay. And then finally, to set it off, I added some locked up RC scale hub hardware. So we've got the lockers in the front and then the regular hubs in the rear. I'm not affiliated with locked up RC at all, but these are awesome. So I'll leave a link for those in the description below as well. You print these sliders, you replace the stock sliders. There's holes for the body to mount. And you can see here that I use 3 M3 screws instead of the grub screws because I'm not really going to take this body on and off. And you can see that the hood does open. So I put the battery up here. I did print a plate to go between the chassis, and I will add that to Cuts 3D with the sliders. It'll all be one package. And yeah, so the battery sits on the plate, and I strap it in with this strap. And then I press the power button, close the hood, and go. So this is one of the projects that I've been working on. Let's move on to another one. And there it is, folks. This is another little side project that I've been working on. This is a RC 4-wheel drive TF2. It is actually the TF2 truck. So you can see that we do have the TF2 stuff here with a couple of changes. So the first major change that you can see here is the axles. We put HD44 axles under it. We're using the Merchant Metal leaf mounts for it, and they worked really well. I would highly recommend them. You know, the fitment and quality was really good on them. I did have to grind a little bit off of one of the mounts to clear the pumpkin in the front, but that wasn't a huge deal. I'd rather have to grind a little bit off than to add material later. We did add the axles. I designed and made some inner fender liners for the front. You can't really see them, but they're there. So this truck will be used as a trail truck. It will see mud and water, and I wanted to keep the mud and water outside of the cab. Other changes that I've made is I've added the RC 4-wheel drive front and rear bumpers. These are the metal versions, and I also added the aluminum bumper mounts. RC 4-wheel drive really likes to nickel and dime you for everything. One of my big complaints with it is that it doesn't come with a cover for the spur and the pinion from the factory. You actually have to buy that separately, which is a little outlandish, but some of the other things that we've done is we added incision drive shafts. I found a file to move the transfer case, so I downloaded that and I printed it. I will leave a link for that in the description below. I am not sure who did it, but huge shout out to whoever you are. Again, the link will be in the description below. Other than that, we're still running a brushed motor and ESC in this because there's really no reason not to. One of the things with this transfer case mount, basically what it does is it sucks the transfer case mount in more, and it doesn't have this big, huge drop where the stock one goes. Now, one of the downsides is you're gonna have to trim the battery plate, which isn't a big deal because the battery is in the truck box up here. This is where I keep the battery and the on switch. I'll leave a link in the description for this truck box. I did have to manipulate it. I bought that off of Cuts 3D because I spent probably 3 hours trying to make this diamond plate in CAD, and I decided that it was easier to spend $10 on a truck box and modify it. So I will leave a link for that in the description below. And yeah, we also added the locked up scale hub hardware on this truck as well. So it's running Proline BFG all-terrain tires with some cheap wheels. Again, I've had these for a long time. This truck has been a lot of fun. I don't have any footage of it yet because the rear, I removed the shocks because the shocks were too long. So I need to get new shocks, and really what I'm waiting on are some stabilizer bars that I ordered so that way these leafs don't bend and wrap. It basically prevents the axle from wrapping up and down like this, and you can see as it does that, that leaf, that red leaf there bends a lot. So once I have those, I will be getting a lot of footage of this truck. There it is, folks. Project number 2 that we've been working on. And this is the last thing I want to talk about. This is my Class 2 mullet basically full Vanquish build, if you will. So this truck started life as a Vanquish VRD carbon. Right out of the box, I installed a drone ESC with a Holmes Hobby 2040 kV revolver motor, and I just left it stock. So I did add the bed to the back, and I've been running these half cabs with it. And it's gone through a few different changes. When I installed it, or when I put the kit together, I added the incision drive shafts right out of the box because they're way better than the plastic ones, and I had them. Like I said, I did the drone ESC and the Holmes Hobby revolver motor. I left the servo on axle, and it was a full portal truck. I ran it that way for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and it ran really good. I prefer the lightweight ESC and motor in it, and I think it actually performs better than having something like a 2-in-1, even in a stock truck, because you're saving a lot of weight. I think it performs better, but that's just me. The next series of changes, I added a straight front axle. That required adding a reverse ring and pinion in the rear, so I had to Dremel out the third member and the axle housing itself. And then I'll leave a link for the ring and pinion that I used in the description below. And then, like I said, I put the straight axle on the front, as you can see here. Now, when I did that, I left the servo on the axle. So this is running servo behind the axle. Really the second generation of this truck was still servo on axle. And the truck did really well. I've competed with this truck many times, and I've actually won with it probably 2 to 4 times as well. And so it does really well. Now, the latest installment of this truck is we added the stubby kit to it. So we installed the Vanquish stubby kit that sucks the transmission back and puts the motor back, and then we also added the behind the axle servo for the front. When I did that, I got a Reef's Brass 777 servo for a really good deal, and so I threw that on this truck. Because it's very hard to add weight to this front axle. I can't put big portal brass covers on here because it's not portals. And yeah, so I just decided to throw this servo in here to see what it did. And it doesn't do bad. It gets the job done, so I'm not complaining. That's all that we did, is add the behind the axle with the stubby kit. And I think it actually performs better. I do notice a difference when doing steep inclines and side hills and things of that nature. So I initially didn't want to do the stubby conversion because I thought that it wouldn't make that big of a difference, but ultimately it did. So if you're on the fence about doing it, I would highly recommend to add the stubby kit to your VRD carbon because, yes, it does make a difference. And that's predominantly when you're using a behind the axle servo. If you plan on adding the stubby kit to the transmission and leaving it servo on axle, you're not really going to get that much of an advantage. One of the other things that we did was found a set of 1.9 Battleborn wheels in clear. And then I added these gunmetal rings to the outside, and I think that kind of makes them look a little better than the all clear rings. And then finally, we decided to set the build off with a bit of flair, and I reached out to Nomad at Nomad Creations, and I had him make a body. So this body has been fitted, so everything is good to go. I do need to trim it up because it will eat into the fender, so I'll probably cut where this crease is here. Probably cut that out. I don't have the heart to do it yet, so for right now, I'm just going to sit there and look at it, but I think it turned out fantastic. Again, this was done by Nomad. I'll leave a link to his Facebook page in the description below. At the time of this recording, he is on vacation, so if he doesn't respond to you immediately, that's why. Otherwise, I've ordered probably 6 to 8 bodies from him so far, and his communication is great. The job he does is even better, and his turnaround time is exactly what he tells you it's going to be. So just know that he's become very popular over the last probably 4 to 6 months, and he's got a lot of work going on. So he's a one-man shop with a day job like me. And yeah, if you reach out to him, don't get discouraged if he doesn't respond immediately, or if he gives you a little longer time frame, such as a 2 to 3 month delay in you getting your body. That's just part of it. The last thing I want to talk about before I wrap this video up is the rear shocks. So I ended up putting these Rhino 80 millimeter shocks in the rear because I don't want long shocks on the rear of my comp truck. And at first I was not a huge fan of these Rhinos when I took them out of the package. I'm still on the fence about them. The seals in them are not very good, right? So I'm gonna have to pull the shock apart and change out the seal. Originally I had 2660s on the truck, and apparently one of the shocks got bent. I'm not sure how that happened, but I was no longer able to articulate the truck like this. And so I ended up giving these Rhinos a shot, and they've been all right. I put some 5K oil, 5K CST oil in there, and as you can see, it's pretty much already gone. But when the truck is driving, there's enough overdrive to keep the back suspension sucked down in full bump mode like this. But there's also enough spring rate there to have resistance if needed. And it's really worked out fine. I haven't had any issues with it. I would prefer the 2660s, but these were $20 for 4, and the 2660s are $26 for a pair. And then you have to modify them. So these will be just fine for now, and then ultimately I will take the caps off of these and change out the seal. So there you have it. That's all the stuff that I've been doing. Like I said, it's not everything, but just a couple of things. I will have more in next week's episode, so stay tuned. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell. Huge shout out to the TABO club members. We will do another giveaway here very soon. As promised, huge shout out to everyone for making it this far, and as always, we hope you have a great day.